The shuttle screamed through the upper atmosphere of Vorinth, the hull trembling as sheets of electric fire streaked past the viewports. Elias Varon braced himself against the vibrations, watching the clouds tear open to reveal a landscape that looked like the cracked shell of a dying world. Jagged mountains glittered with obsidian edges, and rivers of phosphorescent mist rolled across the plains below. It was beautiful and terrifying, like a wound that refused to heal. "Touchdown in 30, Commander Nyla Juno called from the cockpit. Her voice was steady, controlled, as always. She'd flown through worse. The rest of the Helios team was strapped in, 5 scientists, 2 security officers, and an AI drone cluster named Vita humming softly at Elias's shoulder. "Environmental metrics stable enough for surface ops," Vita announced, its voice even and artificial. "Recommend establishing perimeter within 2 hours. Local atmospheric pressure within human tolerance but electrical volatility remains high." Elias smiled faintly. "Understood, Vita. Let's try not to get struck by godlight on day 1. The shuttle touched down on a ridge overlooking a valley dense with bioluminescent fungus that pulsed faint green with every lightning flash. The moment the engines powered down, the silence was broken only by the whispering wind and the distant rumble of thunder. Elias stepped onto the planet's surface, his boots sinking into gritty dust that shimmered faintly, almost alive. He inhaled through his helmet's filters and felt an old, familiar thrill. This was what he lived for, not the sterile labs of orbiting stations, not the data reports, but the pulse of an untouched world beneath his feet. Yet Vorinth felt, aware. Every gust of wind carried a strange resonance, like a whisper of something vast beneath the surface. "Helios Base 1, report perimeter," Nyla said as her security officers unpacked energy pylons. Blue light flared as the barrier field rose around the landing zone. "We set camp here. Varon, your survey range is 10 clicks until further notice. No wandering off alone." He nodded but didn't promise. He rarely did. His eyes were already drawn to the horizon where a jagged ridge split the clouds like a blade. His scanner pinged faintly, life signs, faint but enormous, buried deep under rock. He frowned, adjusting the device. It wasn't a glitch. Something big was alive out there. By dusk, the base was half assembled. The fungal trees around them emitted a slow pulse of bioluminescence that seemed to sync with the planet's rumbling heartbeat. Elias knelt beside a patch of glowing moss and recorded readings. The organism's bioelectric pattern was unlike anything catalogued, it pulsed in mathematical intervals. Intentional. Communicative. "Don't tell me the plants are trying to talk to you again," Nyla said, approaching with her helmet off. Her expression softened slightly. She'd known him long enough to recognize the look in his eyes, the awe, the curiosity that had gotten him exiled from more than one research council. "Everything talks, Commander," he murmured. "We just don't always know how to listen. Just remember our job is data, not philosophy." A low tremor rolled through the ground beneath them, subtle but deep. The team froze. The instruments flickered. A burst of static crackled through the comms, followed by a guttural tone, like a growl reverberating through metal. "Seismic activity?" Nyla asked. Elias studied his scanner. "No. Something alive." Before anyone could respond, the storm overhead erupted. White lightning carved the sky, slamming into the ridge to the east. The shockwave knocked Elias to the ground. For a heartbeat, the world became a blur of light and sound. Then, in the distance, he saw it, a silhouette against the storm, massive, moving, alive. A ridgebacked creature crawling across the mountain's edge before vanishing into the mist. Nyla followed his gaze. "Tell me that was a sensor echo." He shook his head slowly. That was no echo. The team scrambled to recalibrate their sensors. Readings spiked wildly, unregistered biosignatures, electromagnetic surges, subterranean activity. Elias felt a shiver of wonder and unease. Whatever that thing was, it dwarfed any known life form in mass and energy output. Hours later, in the dim glow of the portable lab, he replayed the sensor feed. The creature's outline was visible only for a second, a sleek mass of muscle and armor, 6 limbs, moving with impossible grace for something so large. Its energy signature matched the frequency of the storms themselves. Almost like the planet's heartbeat, he whispered. Or its curse, Nyla said from the doorway. Local mythology calls this place the Valley of Unending Death. The KYRNI forbid anyone from approaching it. You might want to remember that before you go chasing ghosts. He looked up at her. You think I'm chasing ghosts? I think you're looking for something to redeem you, she replied quietly, then left him alone with the data. Outside, the storm subsided, leaving only the hum of the wind and the low, rhythmic pulse of the planet beneath his feet. Elias couldn't shake the feeling that the world was watching him back. Somewhere out there, in the shadows of the mountains, the creature stirred again, aware, restless, and waiting. He switched off the lights, stood at the viewport, and watched the distant lightning crawl across the sky. The others saw a dangerous planet. He saw a living intelligence, a puzzle wrapped in myth. And though he didn't yet understand why, he felt certain his arrival here had disturbed something ancient, something that had been waiting far longer than humanity had ever existed. When the next tremor came, it wasn't from the storm. The ground pulsed once, twice, like the echo of a heartbeat beneath the soil. And for an instant, in the reflection of the glass, Elias thought he saw 2 eyes staring back at him, vast, golden, and sorrowful, before vanishing into darkness. The chanting began before sunrise, rising from the deep marshes like smoke. Thousands of KYRNI gathered around the circle of ether, their scaled forms glimmering faintly under the light of the twin moons. Bioluminescent spores drifted in the mist, clinging to armor and flesh, illuminating the ritual grounds in a pale blue glow. The air smelled of salt and burning resin. At the center of the vast circle stood the High Elder SS Aether, his translucent frills stretched wide, the sacred staff of the coil held high above his head. The crystal at its tip pulsed in rhythm with the low hum of the gathering. Children of the current, SS Aether intoned, his voice carrying across the swamp like thunder rolling through water, the balance quivers once more. The dew meter stirs beneath the bones of the world. Its hunger grows, its shadow lengthens. The storms rage because it draws breath. The crowd hissed in unison, tails slapping the shallow water. Around the circle, younger priests began striking the surface with flat stones, sending ripples toward the center where glowing blood had been poured into a spiraling pattern. Kael'thra knelt among the outer ranks, her claws clenched tight. The chants vibrated through her chest, familiar and heavy, but she couldn't bring herself to join in. Her second eyelids flickered reflexively as she looked toward the mural carved into the towering obelisk beyond the circle, a depiction of the great beast, Vorok, its jaws open wide, surrounded by the figures of dying ancestors. To the others, it was a warning. To her, it looked like sorrow frozen in stone. When the chant reached its peak, SS Aether thrust his staff into the ground. The crystal flared bright gold, sending arcs of energy across the circle. By the decree of the elders of the coil, he declared, the time has come again. The beast must be slain to seal the storms. Its heart will feed the sky, and the gods shall be appeased. Kael'thra felt the eyes of the other acolytes turn toward her as they raised their spears in salute. Her stomach tightened. She had seen the preparations, armored hunters forging their weapons from living metal, ships being ready to cross the storm valleys. Every few centuries, they repeated the ritual, and every time, few returned. The survivors swore the sacrifice was made, yet the storms always came again. After the ceremony, she slipped away from the gathering and moved through the fog toward the elder chambers. The temple loomed ahead, built from fused coral and stone, its walls alive with veins of blue light. Inside, the air was cool and thick with incense. SS Aether was already there, speaking with 2 senior priests. When he noticed her, he dismissed them with a flick of his hand. You do not chant, he said quietly. His frills fluttered with disapproval. You think the gods do not hear your silence? Caelfra bowed low. They hear my doubt, elder. That is why I come. He studied her for a long moment. Speak, then. The beast, she said softly. We kill it again and again, yet the balance never holds. The storms return. Perhaps we have misunderstood. Perhaps the doom eater is not our curse, but our. Aether's tail lashed the floor, the sound sharp as thunder. Enough. You question not only the rights, but the memory of our ancestors. The beast is corruption given form. Its breath poisons the currents of the world. It must die so that we may live. Caelfra raised her eyes. And yet it lives still. If the gods wished it dead, would it not already be gone? Perhaps the fault is not in the creature, but in our blade. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then the elder's gaze softened, though his tone remained iron. You are young. Doubt is the fever of youth. In time, faith will cure it. Or truth will, she murmured before she could stop herself. Aether's eyes narrowed. Be careful, Caelfra. The gods are merciful, but their patience is not infinite. You will join the hunter's expedition. Perhaps then you will understand the beast's evil with your own eyes. She bowed again, lower this time, and withdrew before he could see the anger in her expression. Outside, the mist thickened, glowing faintly with the pulse of the ether veins beneath the marsh. She walked to the water's edge and looked toward the distant ridge where lightning crawled endlessly through the clouds. Somewhere beyond that storm lay the valley of the beast. In the distance, drums began again, low and rhythmic, summoning the hunters to the docks. Massive living vessels, creatures shaped through generations of symbiosis, shifted restlessly in the water, their bioluminescent fins slicing through the murk. Warriors climbed aboard, their armor grown from the shells of deep-sea leviathans, carrying weapons that breathed faintly with inner light. Caelfra joined them, her doubts heavy but her resolve stronger. As the vessel lurched forward, she looked back toward the temple. From one of its upper terraces, Aether watched her depart, his expression unreadable. The wind howled across the marshes, carrying the scent of ozone. Lightning split the sky again, and for an instant she saw it, high above the clouds, a vast shadow moving, outlined by fire. The Doom Eater. It was real, and it was waiting. She whispered to herself, a prayer or perhaps a promise. If the gods wish you dead, they can strike you down themselves. I will see what you are before I raise a blade. The living ship dove beneath the waves, following the glowing veins that led toward the forbidden valley. The drums faded, replaced by the deep pulse of the ocean and the echo of her own heartbeat. Somewhere above, thunder rolled like the voice of something ancient, and she felt the first stirrings of fear, and curiosity so sharp it burned. The storm had not stopped in 3 days. It tore across the ridge like a living thing, shredding the sky with bolts of silver fire and turning the valleys below into rivers of mud and shattered stone. Elias Varen's suit adjusted to the violent pressure fluctuations as he climbed higher, one gloved hand gripping the wet rock, the other clutching his scanner. The display flickered with erratic readings, massive energy spikes, organic signatures layered with electromagnetic distortion. Whatever was buried here, it was alive, and it was in pain. He had left the base before dawn, against Nyla's direct orders. Vita's voice still echoed in his comms, warning him of lethal voltages and seismic instability, but he silenced it. Curiosity overrode caution. The others saw only chaos and danger. Elias felt something else beneath it, intention, like the planet was trying to draw him somewhere. He reached the plateau just as another lightning strike split the mountain. The blast threw him backward, slamming him into the rocks. His visor dimmed to filter the flash, and for a few seconds his vision filled with static. Then, through the haze, he saw it. The creature lay in the ravine below, a vast shape half buried in debris and ash. Its carapace shimmered with fractured patterns of obsidian and gold. One of its limbs twitched weakly, carving deep furrows into the earth. Around it, the ground steamed where strange, crystalline blood had hardened into jagged blue shards, the same substance his instruments had identified as etherstone. Elias froze, heart hammering. Every instinct told him to retreat, to call for backup, to let someone else take the risk. But the creature's movements weren't those of a predator, it was struggling to breathe. Its chest rose and fell shallowly, releasing a sound that was less a growl than a low, broken vibration. A wounded thing, not a monster. He slid down the slope carefully, boots skidding over wet stone. When he reached the base, the air was thick with ozone and heat. The scanner trembled in his grip, its readings were off the scale. He muted it and stepped closer. The creature's eyes, massive, golden, slit-pupilled, opened slightly, fixing on him. Reflexively, Elias raised both hands, palms outward. "It's okay," he said softly, though his voice shook. "I'm not here to hurt you." The beast exhaled, and a wave of warmth rolled over him, carrying the scent of scorched earth and minerals. A pulse rippled through the ground, making the air hum. His visor flickered again, momentary interference, like something brushing his mind. Not words, but feelings, confusion, pain, fear. He knelt slowly and unpacked his field kit. The nanofabricator buzzed to life, extruding a length of medical foam. He'd used it on wounded animals before, but nothing this large. Still, he approached one of the gashes near its forelimb and sprayed the foam across the wound. The material hissed and fused, sealing the torn plates. The creature shuddered but didn't strike. Its breathing steadied, just slightly. Thunder rolled overhead, and with it came movement in the distance, faint lights weaving through the mist. He zoomed in through his visor's lens. Figures, dozens of them, armored and moving in formation. The KYRNI hunters. "Damn it," he whispered. He looked back at the creature. "They're coming for you, aren't they?" The beast's pupils contracted sharply, a flash of panic and anger rippling through the air like static. Elias could feel it even without understanding. He made a decision before logic could argue. He triggered his suit's locator jammer and crouched near the creature's head. "I can help," he said. "But you need to move." The beast shifted, muscles rippling under its armored skin. When it tried to rise, it stumbled, the ground cracking beneath its weight. Elias grabbed his pack and pointed toward a narrow crevice at the base of the ravine. "There, shelter. Follow me." It hesitated, then obeyed. Slowly, painfully, it crawled after him, each step shaking the ground. The hunters' lights grew brighter behind them. Elias scrambled into the crevice, the rock walls slick and close. The creature barely fit, its breath filled the air with heat and a low, trembling resonance. They waited in silence as the KYRNI search party reached the ravine. Voices echoed in their guttural tongue, followed by the sound of energy spears striking the ground. Elias held his breath, heart pounding. Through the narrow gap, he saw them examine the blood crystals, collecting samples with reverence. A tall figure stepped forward, an elder priest, judging by the glowing runes etched into his armor. His voice was sharp, commanding. The others bowed their heads. They spoke briefly, and then began marking the ground with symbols. Elias watched in dread as one of them planted a device resembling a living beacon, its core pulsing red. The air around it shimmered with heat. He didn't know what it was, but he understood the intent: destruction. The hunters withdrew. Moments later, the beacons hummed deep into a roar. Elias cursed, pressed his palm against the creature's flank. "We have to move, now." The beast surged forward, breaking through the rock wall with terrifying force. The explosion followed a heartbeat later, engulfing the ravine in fire. Elias was thrown into darkness, weightless for a moment before his suit's emergency dampeners caught him. When he opened his eyes, the world was chaos, ash, lightning, the echo of a dying storm. The creature loomed beside him, unharmed but trembling. It looked down at him, and for the first time he saw something unmistakable in its gaze: recognition. Gratitude, maybe. He reached out, placing his hand on its armor. The hum returned, clearer now, resonating through his bones. A fragment of an image bloomed in his mind: vast oceans, a shining city beneath the planet's crust, and the sound of voices calling in a language older than stars. Then it was gone, leaving him gasping. The creature turned and lumbered toward the shadows of a nearby cavern, pausing only once to glance back at him. Elias followed without hesitation, the rain washing away the ash from his visor. Behind them, the ridge burned. Above, the storms grew quiet for the first time in decades. Elias and the creature moved through the cavern slowly, the only light coming from the faint phosphorescence along the walls and the glow of his suit's hut. The air smelled metallic and wet, and the echoes of dripping water sounded like distant footsteps. Each step the beast took made the ground tremble slightly, and Elias kept a hand on its forelimb, feeling the vibration of its massive muscles beneath his palm. Once they had put enough distance between themselves and the destroyed ravine, Elias activated his comms. "Vita, secure a perimeter in this area. No alerts to base, understood?" "Understood, Doctor," the AI replied. Its voice was calm, almost soothing, a stark contrast to the pounding of Elias's heartbeat. "Perimeter secured. Threat detection nominal." He exhaled. Even in this temporary safety, his mind raced. He had defied Nyla's orders, abandoned the base, and, most dangerously, interfered with the KYRNI's sacred ritual. They would not forgive him if they discovered the truth. But the alternative, leaving this creature to die, was unthinkable. He crouched beside it, inspecting the wounds. The nanofabricator foam had held, but some plates were fractured and still losing a strange dark ichor that solidified in crystalline patterns upon contact with air. "I can fix this," he murmured, unpacking a compact medkit. He produced a syringe filled with a stabilizing serum, designed for rapid regeneration in extreme exobiological cases. The creature flinched at the light but did not resist. Elias hesitated for a moment, then pressed the needle gently into the thick membrane near its shoulder. The serum hissed as it entered the tissue, and the ichor began to liquefy and flow back into the wound. The beast's chest rose and fell more evenly now. Its head lowered toward him, and Elias felt the heat of its gaze, an intelligence that was sharp and calculating. He had studied dangerous species before, but nothing had ever felt so aware, so present. A rush of emotion, almost like a pulse of thought, brushed against his mind: fear, yes, but also a question. A question without words, but impossible to ignore. "We'll get through this," Elias whispered. "I'll make sure of it." A sudden vibration ran through the cavern floor. Elias stiffened. The sensors on his HUD lit up, a small contingent of KYRNI patrols, moving toward the ravine. They would investigate the blast, search for survivors, and most importantly, confirm the failure of their ritual. Elias's stomach clenched. He couldn't let them find the creature, not like this. The creature turned its massive head toward the distant echoes, its limbs tensing. Elias raised his hand. "Stay. They're not your enemy yet. I'll handle this." He tapped his comm link. "Vita, initiate stealth mode on all active sensors. Scramble biosignatures. No trace of this area or life forms detectable." "Processing," Vita replied. The ambient hum of the cavern shifted as energy fields enveloped them. Light bounced differently, readings flattened. Elias had learned these tricks over decades of fieldwork, but even he had never used them on something of this magnitude. Minutes passed. The tremors of the hunters faded, replaced by the echo of dripping water. The creature lowered itself onto its side, a low rumble emanating from its chest. Elias knelt beside it. He touched one of the fractured plates with a gloved hand. "You've been through enough," he murmured. "I'll keep you safe. That's a promise." Another vibration passed through the ground, this one gentler. The creature's eyes flicked toward the narrow tunnel that led deeper into the cavern network. Elias understood instantly. It wanted to move, but couldn't do so fully until it healed more. He activated the nanofabricator again, this time assembling a set of portable supports, reinforced braces that would allow it to stand and move without risking further injury. Hours passed as he worked, his hands steady, mind focused entirely on the task. Outside, the storms began to abate slightly, a calm that felt unnatural. He wondered if the creature itself was influencing the weather, and the thought sent a shiver down his spine. It was impossible to prove, yet the correlation was undeniable. When the supports were finally in place, the beast rose, groaning under the weight of its own body. Elias backed away, heart racing. Its eyes met his again, unblinking, and in that moment, he felt something he had never experienced in his life: trust. A recognition that went beyond species, beyond language. Suddenly, his visor beeped urgently. Another signal, Nyla's fleet returning to the base, scanning for anomalies, unaware that their best scientist had vanished into the wilderness. Elias's stomach twisted. He had no choice but to stay hidden, but the thought of leaving the creature unattended, even for a moment, was unbearable. He looked at it and spoke softly, almost as if negotiating with a sentient mind. "You need to trust me. We can't go back, not yet. Not until you're ready. They'll come for you. Both of them, your hunters and my people. But we'll survive, I promise. Together." The creature exhaled, a vibration resonating through the cavern floor. It took a tentative step toward him, and Elias reached out, letting his hand rest against the ridged carapace. The heat from its body seeped into his gloves, through his suit, filling him with a mixture of fear and awe. He felt the pulse again, a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, matching the subtle tremors of the world itself. Minutes became hours. Elias observed, treated, and communicated as best he could. The storm outside waned into a distant hiss. Finally, as the cavern fell into quiet darkness, he allowed himself to lean back against the wall. The creature lay near him, massive and calm, eyes slowly closing in apparent trust. Elias exhaled deeply, feeling the weight of what he had done. He had defied orders, endangered his career, and risked his life, but he had saved something remarkable. And in the silence, something else settled over him, a thought that both thrilled and terrified him: this creature was not just alive. It understood. And somehow, he felt certain, it had already begun to understand him. The cavern had settled into an eerie calm. Outside, the remnants of the storm drizzled over jagged peaks, sending mist curling through the fissures in the rock. Elias sat cross-legged on a boulder, his scanner humming softly, while the creature lay coiled near the far wall, breathing deep and steady. For the first time since their encounter, it didn't twitch at every sound. It watched him with those golden eyes, unblinking, yet patient, as though it understood he was no threat. He broke the silence with the faint click of a data pad, recording observations. "Day 3, he murmured. "Vitals stable. Pain reduced. Cognitive activity, heightened. Responding to stimuli. Emotional patterns, complex." The creature's head shifted slightly. Elias noticed the subtle contraction of muscles along its jaw, almost like a nod, and a vibration thrummed through the cavern floor. It was a response, deliberate, not instinctive. His heart rate quickened. No animal he had studied had ever shown such coordination or awareness. He felt the brush of something far older than himself, a consciousness vast and deliberate. "All right," he said quietly, pulling a packet of synthesized nutrient gel from his pack. He placed it on the floor a few meters away. The creature's head lifted, following the movement, muscles tensing with cautious interest. Its pupils dilated slightly. Elias didn't move. He simply watched as it extended a clawed limb toward the gel, pausing halfway. Then, carefully, it took a portion and brought it toward its mouth, tasting, testing. A vibration thrummed again through the floor. Elias could feel it in his chest. Not sound, not voice, but thought. A question: why help? I don't kill things that don't deserve it, Elias whispered, uncertain if the creature would comprehend his words. I've spent my life trying to understand. Not destroy. The pulse was stronger now, coursing through the ground. He realized it was responding emotionally, not rationally. The creature was afraid, wary, but also curious. It had accepted his presence, his voice, his touch. That trust, fragile and tentative, was growing. Hours passed. Elias adjusted its braces, replaced damaged plates, and fed it more of the nutrient gel. With each small gesture, the creature's responses became more coordinated, tilting its head, lowering limbs, shifting its weight with understanding. Elias felt a connection forming, subtle but undeniable, like two minds brushing against each other across an unspoken divide. When night fell, he activated a small projection unit to simulate the sun. Bioluminescent fungi along the cavern walls pulsed in response, casting long, wavering shadows. The creature stirred, moving closer to the light. It lowered its massive head, eyes locking with his. The vibrations through the cavern intensified, a steady rhythm now, almost comforting. Elias realized it was attempting communication in its own way, emotion conveyed through resonance, through pulse, through gesture. He extended a hand again. Slowly, carefully, it pressed a claw against his palm. The sensation was electric, grounding. Fear, relief, and something warmer passed through him, transmitted in a way he didn't have words for. Elias laughed softly, a breathless, incredulous sound. "We're understanding each other," he said. The words felt inadequate, yet they were all he had. Days blurred together. Elias monitored the outside world through the cavern's natural apertures, noting changes in the storms, the movement of the KYRNI patrols, the shifts in Etherstone energy beneath the surface. The creature responded to his observations with subtle gestures, leaning, tilting, vibrating. When he called its attention to faint bioluminescent patterns in the rock, it extended a limb, tracing the lines as though it recognized meaning. His excitement grew. This wasn't just survival, it was learning, teaching, communication. Yet beneath the elation, Elias felt the weight of danger pressing close. Nyla would be questioning his absence. The Helios team would send scouts. And the KYRNI, relentless in their devotion, would return in greater numbers. Every success in bonding with the creature came with the knowledge that discovery could mean death for both of them. One evening, as he adjusted a brace along the creature's flank, a sudden thought struck him, an idea that made his pulse quicken. The creature wasn't just intelligent, it was aware of its surroundings in ways humans could barely comprehend. Its fear of the hunters, its hesitation, its careful movements, it all demonstrated strategy. It could survive. And if it could survive, then perhaps it could fight back, not with raw force alone, but with cunning. He spoke softly, almost to himself. If we can teach each other, if we can communicate, we can get through whatever comes next. They won't understand you. They'll see only what they fear. But I can help them see something different. The creature shifted closer, its massive form curling around him protectively. Its pulse vibrated again, slow and steady, almost like a heartbeat aligning with his own. Elias placed his head near its flank, feeling warmth and life, a reassurance that transcended words. For the first time, he felt a strange, exhilarating hope. This bond, fragile as it was, could change everything. A distant rumble echoed through the cavern entrance. Elias tensed, scanning the sensor feeds. KYRNI scouts. They were returning, likely alerted by the blast in the ravine. The creature's eyes widened slightly, and Elias felt the surge of panic mirrored in its vibrations. "Not yet," he whispered. "We stay hidden. We survive. Together." It responded, subtly but unmistakably, leaning closer, pressing its head gently toward him. Elias realized then that it was not only trusting him, it had chosen him. And in that choice, he found resolve. He would not let them take it. He would not let them destroy what he had saved. The night deepened. Outside, the storms began to gather again, but within the cavern, a fragile sanctuary persisted. Elias and the creature sat side by side, listening to the pulse of the world, learning the rhythm of each other. And for the first time since his arrival on Vorinth, Elias felt that the impossible was within reach. He could protect the beast, earn its trust fully, and perhaps, if they survived, teach the galaxy a new understanding of power, fear, and compassion. The cavern trembled faintly, the vibrations rippling through the ground like a warning pulse. Elias crouched beside the creature, scanning the narrow entrance that led to the outer slopes. Sensors had picked up multiple signatures moving through the mist. The KYRNI were returning, more numerous this time, and their pattern suggested coordinated tracking. The sound of bioorganic armor sliding across wet stone carried through the tunnels. They were close. Elias's hand rested on the creature's flank, feeling the subtle tremor of its muscles. Its golden eyes followed the movement at the entrance, wary but calm under his presence. He whispered softly, "They'll be here in seconds. Trust me, they won't find us if we stay still." Not yet. The first two KYRNI scouts stepped into the cavern, their scales gleaming faintly in the filtered phosphorescent light. They moved silently, blades shaped from living metal clutched in their hands. Elias held his breath, heart pounding. The creature tensed beside him, its low, vibrating growl almost imperceptible. A voice cut through the tension, sharp and commanding. "The human has interfered. The ritual failed. Locate the beast and bring both to the elders." The figure behind the scouts radiated authority, an elder priest, tall and imposing, runes glowing faintly along his frilled scales. Elias recognized the voice of SSA-Thur's envoy, one trained to track and subdue. The scouts fanned out, sweeping the cavern with precise movements. Elias adjusted the shadows with his HUD, sending false heat and electromagnetic signatures in the opposite direction. The creature remained still, its head low, eyes fixed on him. Elias stroked its armor, murmuring, "Not yet. We'll outsmart them." A sudden gust of wind from the tunnel entrance sent loose debris scattering across the floor. The scouts froze, scanning the disturbance. Elias held his breath, willing the creature to remain calm. Its pulse thrummed in rhythm with his own heartbeat, a strange, comforting synchronization. "Over here," one scout hissed, pointing toward a darker recess. Elias's pulse spiked. He realized that the subtle vibrations coming from the creature, its low, responsive growl, had betrayed their location. Elias rose slightly, hands raised in a gesture of surrender. "Wait. You don't understand," he shouted in the common tongue, hoping it would penetrate the KYRNI translators. The scouts faltered, unsure if this was a trap. The elder priest advanced, chanting quietly, energy humming along the runes of his armor. The creature's eyes widened, and it shifted. Once they had put enough distance between themselves and the destroyed ravine, Elias activated his comms. "Vita, secure a perimeter in this area. No alerts to base, understood?" "Understood, Doctor," the AI replied. Its voice was calm, almost soothing, a stark contrast to the pounding of Elias's heartbeat. "Perimeter secured. Threat detection nominal." He exhaled. Even in this temporary safety, his mind raced. He had defied Nyla's orders, abandoned the base, and, most dangerously, interfered with the KYRNI sacred ritual. They would not forgive him if they discovered the truth. But the alternative, leaving this creature to die, was unthinkable. He crouched beside it, inspecting the wounds. The nanofabricator foam had held, but some plates were fractured and still losing a strange dark ichor that solidified in crystalline patterns upon contact with air. "I can fix this," he murmured, unpacking a compact medkit. He produced a syringe filled with a stabilizing serum, designed for rapid regeneration in extreme exobiological cases. The creature flinched at the light but did not resist. Elias hesitated for a moment, then pressed the needle gently into the thick membrane near its shoulder. The serum hissed as it entered the tissue, and the ichor began to liquefy and flow back into the wound. The beast's chest rose and fell more evenly now. Its head lowered toward him, and Elias felt the heat of its gaze, an intelligence that was sharp and calculating. He had studied dangerous species before, but nothing had ever felt so aware, so present. A rush of emotion, almost like a pulse of thought, brushed against his mind, fear, yes, but also a question. A question without words, but impossible to ignore. "We'll get through this," Elias whispered. "I'll make sure of it." A sudden vibration ran through the cavern floor. Elias stiffened. The sensors on his HUD lit up, a small contingent of KYRNI patrols, moving toward the ravine. They would investigate the blast, search for survivors, and most importantly, confirm the failure of their ritual. Elias's stomach clenched. He couldn't let them find the creature, not like this. The creature turned its massive head toward the distant echoes, its limbs tensing. Elias raised his hand. "Stay. They're not your enemy yet. I'll handle this." He tapped his comm link. "Vita, initiate stealth mode on all active sensors. Scramble biosignatures. No trace of this area or life forms detectable." "Processing," Vita replied. The ambient hum of the cavern shifted as energy fields enveloped them. Light bounced differently, readings flattened. Elias had learned these tricks over decades of fieldwork, but even he had never used them on something of this magnitude. Minutes passed. The tremors of the hunters faded, replaced by the echo of dripping water. The creature lowered itself onto its side, a low rumble emanating from its chest. Elias knelt beside it. He touched one of the fractured plates with a gloved hand. "You've been through enough," he murmured. "I'll keep you safe. That's a promise." Another vibration passed through the ground, this one gentler. The creature's eyes flicked toward the narrow tunnel that led deeper into the cavern network. Elias understood instantly. It wanted to move, but couldn't do so fully until it healed more. He activated the nanofabricator again, this time assembling a set of portable supports, reinforced braces that would allow it to stand and move without risking further injury. Hours passed as he worked, his hands steady, mind focused entirely on the task. Outside, the storms began to abate slightly, a calm that felt unnatural. He wondered if the creature itself was influencing the weather, and the thought sent a shiver down his spine. It was impossible to prove, yet the correlation was undeniable. When the supports were finally in place, the beast rose, groaning under the weight of its own body. Elias backed away, heart racing. Its eyes met his again, unblinking, and in that moment, he felt something he had never experienced in his life: trust. A recognition that went beyond species, beyond language. Suddenly, his visor beeped urgently. Another signal, Nyla's fleet returning to the base, scanning for anomalies, unaware that their best scientist had vanished into the wilderness. Elias's stomach twisted. He had no choice but to stay hidden, but the thought of leaving the creature unattended, even for a moment, was unbearable. He looked at it and spoke softly, almost as if negotiating with a sentient mind. "You need to trust me. We can't go back, not yet." From the narrow entrance behind them, the KYRNI hunters emerged, more numerous than Elias had anticipated. Hundreds of armored figures spread across the chamber, weapons raised, chanting a rhythm that seemed to synchronize with the energy pulses in the walls. High Elder SS Aether stepped forward, his staff blazing with resonant etherstone energy, illuminating the chamber in golden light. His gaze locked on Elias and the creature, frilled scales bristling with righteous fury. "You defile the will of the gods, human." SS Aether's voice carried, amplified by the cavern. "And you, abomination, shall die." The creature shifted, coiling defensively around Elias. Its pulse sent a low rumble through the cavern floor, a warning that made the KYRNI falter. Elias whispered, "Stay calm. follow my lead. We can do this. He activated a series of holographic decoys from his suit, scattering light across the chamber. The projections mimicked the creature's massive silhouette, confusing the hunters momentarily. Sparks flew as energy spears struck the decoys, embedding themselves harmlessly in the stone. The real creature remained still, its eyes fixed on Elias, reading him, trusting him completely. Suddenly, the first strike hit the chamber floor near the creature, sending shards of crystallized etherstone scattering. The creature lunged instinctively, smashing the source of the energy discharge with a limb, sending hunters tumbling backward. Elias scrambled to keep up, issuing soft commands. Move. Keep pressure on the walls, don't let them flank us. The creature obeyed with a precision that startled him. Each movement was deliberate, calculated, almost tactical. It blocked a hunter's advance with one arm while sweeping another aside with a powerful strike. Elias moved alongside it, firing non-lethal electromagnetic pulses to disable the hunter's weapons where possible. Aether advanced, his staff thrumming with concentrated energy. Elias ducked behind the creature's armored flank, feeling the shockwave from the Elder's strike ripple through the stone. The ground shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. He realized in that moment that the creature's presence, its connection to the other stone veins, was amplifying the energy around them. Focus on their formation. Elias shouted, adjusting the suit's field modulators to amplify the cavern's natural resonance. The creature's pulse synchronized with the vibrations, sending destabilizing waves through the floor. Hunters lost footing, weapons discharging accidentally, screams echoing off the walls. Elias felt exhilaration mixed with fear, he was dancing on the edge of catastrophe, yet alive with the raw intensity of it. Aether's eyes flared. The gods will cannot be denied. He struck again, sending a concentrated surge toward the creature. Elias grabbed its forelimb just in time, redirecting the energy toward the cavern walls. The force ricocheted, collapsing part of the chamber ceiling. Dust and debris filled the air, momentarily blinding both sides. Elias coughed, waving his hand toward the creature. Now, deeper. Move. The creature responded, pivoting with surprising agility, its massive form squeezing through a narrow side passage. Elias followed, feeling the pulse of its steps in his chest. Behind them, chaos reigned, the hunters struggled to regroup in the collapsing chamber, their chants rising into frantic cries. Sparks of energy arced across the fallen debris, but the creature remained unscathed, protective, aware. As they descended, Elias realized the chamber itself was shifting. The etherstone veins pulsed in response to the creature's presence, lighting the path ahead. It was as if the planet itself had awoken, reacting to the alignment of human and beast, disrupting the hunter's advance with every step. They emerged into a vast subterranean river, bioluminescent fungi coating the cliffs and glowing in soft blues and greens. The creature waded into the shallow water, its reflection fractured by the rippling currents. Elias followed, scanning the perimeter. The hunters had reached the edge of the previous chamber, but the unstable ceiling and erratic energy pulses slowed their advance. Elias knelt, placing a hand on the creature's armored flank. They're strong, but we're smarter. You fought for your life before, haven't you? The creature tilted its massive head, a low vibration emanating from its chest. Elias felt the resonance in his bones, a wordless affirmation. He activated a small array of projectors on his suit, creating mirrored illusions of movement across the river. The creature responded, moving with the shadows, a predator in perfect harmony with its environment. Hunters stumbled over one another, misled by phantom silhouettes, while Elias and the creature navigated toward a narrower passage leading upward. Above them, the Elder's voice boomed again, carrying over the tunnels, filled with anger and authority. You cannot escape the god's judgment. Elias shook his head, pressing closer to the creature. No, Aether. You can't control everything. Not this time. As they ascended the narrow cliffs, the hunters followed, some catching sight of the real creature, frozen in shock at its size and coordination. Elias realized that this confrontation wasn't about brute force, it was about understanding, trust, and the bond they had forged. Every calculated movement of the beast, every subtle shift in its pulse, was a lesson in strategy, and Elias was learning alongside it. At the top, they paused, overlooking the valley below where distant lightning illuminated the clouds. The hunters were regrouping, preparing another assault. Elias placed his hand firmly against the creature's side. "We fight differently. We survive differently. Together, we turn their fear into weakness." The creature's chest vibrated in acknowledgement, a pulse stronger than anything he had felt before. Elias exhaled. The next move would be dangerous, perhaps deadly, but for the first time, he felt the edge of victory within reach. Not through violence alone, but through understanding, trust, and unity. Behind them, the hunters readied their weapons. Ahead, the cavern opened into a labyrinth of jagged cliffs and etherstone veins. Elias glanced at the creature. "Ready?" The low rumble that emanated from its chest was the closest thing to a growl he had ever heard, a sound of agreement, of anticipation, and of defiance. And together, they stepped forward, into the storm-lit valley, into the path that would determine their survival, and perhaps, reshape the destiny of Vorinth itself. They emerged into a hidden grotto, its walls carved with veins of etherstone that glowed softly, bathing the space in an ethereal light. The cavern stretched wide, vast enough to shelter them both and shield them from prying eyes. The storm outside had intensified again, lightning lancing across the sky, but here, the pulse of the planet was calmer, almost contemplative. Elias knelt beside the creature, letting his eyes adjust to the faint glow. He could feel the subtle resonance emanating from it, an energy that hummed in tandem with the veins of etherstone beneath their feet. As he observed, the creature shifted, coiling its massive body around him protectively. Its chest vibrated rhythmically, and for the first time, Elias noticed something extraordinary: visions, fleeting and fragmented, like memories brushing against his mind. He blinked, startled, and the images sharpened: cities built beneath the crust of Vorinth, vast chambers glowing with the same golden ether light, and beings, tall, scaled, and radiant, interacting with the creature in harmony. The creature exhaled, and the vibrations grew clearer, forming patterns that seemed almost linguistic. Elias pressed his palm against its side, trying to steady himself as understanding blossomed. He realized it wasn't random. These were memories, ancient and preserved. They were glimpses of what the creature had been, not just a force of nature but a guardian, designed by the Kyrni gods themselves to maintain balance on Vorinth. "They used you wrong," Elias whispered, awestruck. "They've been killing you and calling it sacrifice, but you were never meant to harm anyone. You were meant to protect." A tremor ran through the cavern as if the creature agreed, its pulse resonating deeper, and Elias felt the truth embed itself in his mind. The storms, the sacrifices, the endless cycles of death, they had been misguided. Every generation of Kyrni had attempted to destroy the Guardian, misunderstanding its purpose, driven by fear and ritual. He traced his fingers along the armor, feeling the grooves and ridges vibrate in response to his touch. Another vision flashed: ancient Kyrni priests attempting to channel the creature's energy, failing catastrophically, storms tearing across the surface, leaving the planet scarred. Elias swallowed hard, realizing the full scope of the tragedy. The Doom Eater, as the elders called it, had been punished for centuries for fulfilling the very role it was created to uphold. The creature shifted its gaze toward him, eyes wide and unblinking, golden orbs reflecting the cavern's glow. The pulse of its chest intensified, and Elias felt another memory surfacing, this one more recent: the attack in the ravine, the blast, the human interference. The creature had registered his intent, it understood that he had acted with empathy, not aggression. It had chosen him as an ally. "Then we fight differently," Elias murmured, determination coiling through him like steel. "Not with blades, not with fire, not with fear, but with strategy, with unity. We'll show them that balance doesn't come from killing. It comes from understanding." A distant rumble from the cavern's entrance reminded him that the Kyrni hunters had not abandoned the chase. They would return, armed with energy spears, hunting beasts, and perhaps orbital strikes. Yet Elias felt a flicker of hope. He now held knowledge that could change the tides. The creature's memory, its purpose, its intelligence, this was a power the elders had never comprehended, and it could be wielded. He rose, brushing dirt from his suit. We'll need to move. Show them who's really in control of this planet. The creature responded instantly, rising to its full, massive height, eyes scanning the cavern's exit. Its pulse thrummed in harmony with the other stone, and Elias felt a surge of energy in his own chest. They were no longer just hunter and prey, they were partners, strategists, a force united in purpose. Elias gestured toward the narrow passages leading deeper into the mountain network. We'll use the tunnels, the energy veins. Their numbers, their weapons, they mean nothing if we control the terrain. You and I, we can turn this into our advantage. The creature tilted its head, vibration strong and deliberate, as if asking, "Are you ready?" Elias placed his hand firmly on its flank. "I've never been more ready in my life," he said. "Let's show them what we're capable of." The first sounds of pursuit returned, muffled at first, then growing sharper as the hunters descended into the lower caverns. Elias and the creature moved with calculated precision, sliding through narrow passages, using the other stone currents to mask their energy signatures. Each step, each pulse of their movement, was deliberate, designed to confuse and manipulate the hunter's senses. As they approached a vast chamber filled with natural crystalline formations, Elias paused. He traced his fingers along one of the walls, activating a resonance map in his HUD. The other stone veins could amplify energy in ways the KYRNI had never predicted. If used correctly, it could disable weapons, collapse tunnels, or create illusions. "They think they know the gods will," Elias whispered to the creature. "But the gods designed you for balance, not death. And with your help, we can prove it." The creature's pulse vibrated in agreement, stronger now, more focused. Its eyes, bright in the dim glow of the cavern, locked onto Elias. And for the first time, he felt not just trust but understanding, a silent, unspoken bond, a shared purpose. Together, they were no longer victims of tradition or fear. They were a force capable of reshaping the destiny of Vorinth, and perhaps the galaxy itself. Beyond the crystalline walls, the echoes of the approaching hunters grew louder. But Elias did not flinch. He had seen the truth. He had felt the intelligence, the memory, and the emotion in the creature. And he knew, in the marrow of his bones, that they would face the coming storm together, not as hunter and hunted, but as allies, united in vision, strategy, and the courage that only understanding can bring. A flash of lightning illuminated the chamber through a fissure above, reflecting off the creature's golden eyes. Elias placed his hand against its armored flank one last time before they moved forward. "Let's go," he said. "Time to show them what balance really looks like." The creature's pulse surged, a resonance of agreement and anticipation, and together they advanced into the labyrinth, ready to challenge the forces that had sought to destroy them for centuries. The echoes of the planet's heartbeat accompanied their steps, steady and unstoppable, a rhythm they would ride into the fight that was coming. The air in the upper canyon shimmered with heat and static as Elias and the creature emerged onto a jagged cliff overlooking the KYRNI encampment below. The valley was alive with movement, hunters forming ranks, energy spears glinting under the stormlit sky, and drones hovering with faint red pulses, scanning for anomalies. Elias crouched behind a rock, hand pressed against the creature's armored flank, feeling its pulse vibrate in nervous anticipation. "They've fortified themselves," he whispered, eyes scanning the formations. "They expect another frontal attack. They'll be confident. That's our advantage." The creature shifted, muscles coiling like a spring. Its eyes tracked every movement, every faint glimmer of the hunter's weapons, every ripple of energy in the other stone veins snaking across the canyon floor. Elias exhaled slowly. The bond between them had grown stronger with each day, he no longer needed to give explicit commands. The creature understood his intent, reading his posture, his heartbeat, the subtle vibrations he transmitted through the ground. "All right," Elias murmured. "We'll disrupt their formation first. Make them question what they're seeing. Confuse them. Then we'll strike strategically." He activated his HUD, projecting multiple holographic decoys of their massive forms across the canyon. Lightning flashed overhead, illuminating the projections and casting grotesque, shifting shadows across the terrain. The hunters paused, uncertainty rippling through their ranks. Energy spears fired blindly, striking at illusions, and Elias smiled faintly. The first move was his. The creature responded, moving in perfect synchronization, coiling around a boulder, then springing forward with a force that sent small avalanches cascading down the cliffside. Hunters were thrown off balance, their chants faltering. Elias adjusted his field modulators, amplifying the vibrations through the canyon floor. The ground trembled beneath the hunters' feet, disrupting their footing and confusing their senses. SSAther's voice rose above the chaos, commanding and furious. "Do not let the human manipulate you. Focus on the ritual. Destroy the abomination." Elias kept low, hand against the creature's side. Its pulse surged, resonating with his own, transmitting calm and coordination. The bond was no longer fragile, it was an unspoken strategy, a shared understanding. Together, they could anticipate the hunters' movements, predict their attacks, and manipulate the battlefield itself. The first major strike came from above, a KYRNI warship, bioforged wings slicing through the storm, energy cannons bristling. Elias triggered the cavern's etherstone network through his suit, sending a pulse that reflected the energy back, creating a cascading interference field. The blast dispersed harmlessly into the canyon walls, leaving the hunters below panicked and scrambling. The creature surged forward, massive limbs smashing into the leading ranks. Hunters were thrown aside, shields and spears scattering. Elias followed, firing non-lethal electromagnetic pulses to disable the remaining weapons temporarily. The synergy between human and beast was fluid, instinctive, frightening in its precision. SSAther leapt from a ridge, staff blazing with concentrated energy. Elias ducked behind the creature's armored flank as a surge of golden light exploded where he had been standing moments before. The creature twisted, absorbing the brunt of the strike, and the reverberation pulsed through the canyon, toppling more hunters. Elias pressed close, feeling the heat and the vibrations course through his chest. "We're not just fighting them," he shouted over the storm. "We're rewriting what they think power is." The hunters regrouped, attempting to flank them, but Elias anticipated their moves. He guided the creature along narrow ridges, through unstable ledges, using the terrain to create bottlenecks. Each step, each pulse, was calculated. The KYRNI found themselves reacting to an enemy that thought faster than they could, whose size was matched by intelligence, whose instincts were amplified by human strategy. Another surge of lightning split the sky, illuminating the chaos below. Hunters were trapped, some attempting to retreat, only to stumble over collapsing etherstone veins that Elias had subtly destabilized earlier. The creature lunged, knocking aside key targets, while Elias manipulated the environment further, collapsing sections of the canyon to separate the remaining forces. SSAther's voice cut through the storm again, more desperate now. "You do not understand the gods' will. You will be punished for this insolence." Elias smirked, barely audible over the wind. "The gods gave us reasoning, SSAther. You just forgot how to use it." The creature pressed forward, roaring, a sound that reverberated through the cliffs and echoed across the canyon, shaking the remaining hunters to their core. Its pulse vibrated in harmony with the etherstone veins, sending energy tremors that disabled weapons and armor. Elias moved in sync, issuing precise commands with gestures and subtle pulses through the suit. As the chaos peaked, Elias realized the tide had turned. The hunters were scattered, some fleeing in terror, others immobilized by fear and environmental hazards. SSAther remained, standing on a high ridge, staff glowing, fury and disbelief etched into every scale. Elias clenched his fists, heart pounding. "We're not done," he whispered to the creature. But they've seen what we can do together. They know now that fear isn't the only path to power. The creature's chest vibrated, a deep, steady pulse of agreement, and Elias felt it resonate through his very bones. Together, they stood on the ridge above the broken ranks of the hunters, a human and a creature united, ready to confront the elder and whatever he would throw at them next. The storm raged around them, yet in the eye of chaos, Elias understood, this was more than survival. This was revolution. And together, they were unstoppable. Lightning cut the sky as Elias and the creature stood at the edge of the final plateau, overlooking the remnants of the KYRNI encampment below. Smoke curled from collapsed tents and shattered energy conduits, the remnants of a battle that had raged through the canyon and beyond. The storm had reached its zenith, the wind tearing through jagged cliffs, but here, in the eye of it, there was a stillness, a moment suspended between chaos and resolution. Aether emerged from the scattered ranks of hunters, standing tall despite the loss. His staff blazed faintly, but there was something different now, hesitation, uncertainty, the faintest trace of fear in his gaze. Elias stepped forward, chest rising and falling with steady breath, hand brushing against the creature's armored flank. Its pulse vibrated in tandem with his heartbeat, a rhythm of confidence and shared understanding. "You have defied tradition," Aether said, voice echoing across the plateau. "You have destroyed the ritual, disrespected the gods, and yet, you stand." Elias squared his shoulders. "Tradition doesn't make right. Fear doesn't make strength. You've been trying to destroy this creature for generations, believing it a monster. But it's not. It's alive, aware, and capable of more than you've ever allowed yourselves to see." The elder priest's eyes narrowed, but he did not strike. For the first time, Elias saw the weight of doubt settle over him. The creature shifted slightly, leaning forward, massive golden eyes locked on the elder. Its pulse thrummed with power, resonating with the other stone veins below the plateau, amplifying the energy in the air. Elias took a careful step forward. "Look at it. See what it is, not what you fear. You've been worshipping gods and performing sacrifices without understanding what your own planet has given you. Balance, not death. Protection, not destruction. And it has chosen me, not to destroy, but to teach." The creature's chest vibrated more strongly now, and Elias felt the energy flow through him. Images flickered in his mind, visions of the planet in harmony, cities glowing beneath the crust, creatures and people thriving without fear, without ritualized slaughter. He exhaled sharply, realizing the magnitude of what they had uncovered. Aether raised his staff, trembling slightly. The gods demand." "No," Elias interrupted firmly. "The gods created this creature to protect your world, not punish it. You've been wrong all along. Look at it and learn." The creature moved slowly toward the elder, massive limbs creating vibrations in the plateau. Instead of attacking, it lowered its head, golden eyes meeting Aether's gaze. A pulse emanated from its chest, a wave of energy that resonated with the other stone and with the very core of the planet. Aether staggered, clutching his staff, his energy shield flickering as the rhythm of the creature's pulse reached him. A silence fell over the plateau. The storm seemed to pause. Even the surviving hunters froze, witnessing the incredible power of controlled, conscious energy, a force that was not destruction, but understanding made tangible. Elias felt the connection between himself and the creature solidify, the trust and empathy of days crystallizing into an unshakable bond. Slowly, Aether lowered his staff. The light dimmed, and the fear in his eyes was replaced by something more complex, comprehension. He bowed slightly, an acknowledgement not just of Elias, but of the creature itself. The hunters followed, kneeling and lowering their weapons. Elias let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "You see now," he said softly. "It's not about power through fear. It's about understanding, trust, and balance. You can work with this creature, or you can continue your cycle of destruction. The choice is yours." The creature exhaled, a low vibration rolling across the plateau, harmonizing with the veins of Etherstone. It had survived the attacks, the hunts, the centuries of fear and misunderstanding. And now, side by side with Elias, it radiated not just strength, but the possibility of a new era. Aether nodded slowly. Perhaps, we have been blind. Perhaps the gods did not intend this suffering. Perhaps balance requires humility. Elias smiled faintly, feeling a warmth in the air, in the pulse of the creature, in the rhythm of the planet itself. Then let's start again. Together. The storm began to dissipate, the clouds breaking to reveal a pale light illuminating the valley. Survivors of the hunter's contingent cautiously approached, witnessing the human and the creature standing united, formidable yet calm. Elias extended a hand toward them. You don't have to fear what you don't understand. Learn from it. Protect it. And perhaps you will learn to protect yourselves too. The creature nudged Elias gently, a gesture of affirmation, and then exhaled a long, resonant vibration that rolled across the plateau. It was no longer a monster to be feared, it was a guardian, an ally, and a living testament to the power of empathy, strategy, and courage. Aether finally spoke, voice quieter now, carrying reverence rather than command. You have shown us a path that we did not see. May it guide us forward. Elias felt relief and pride, but also a quiet awe. The battle was over, not with annihilation, but with understanding. The creature's pulse hummed through him, through the ground, through the Etherstone veins, a living heartbeat of Vorinth itself. He looked out over the valley, at the hunters, at the plateau, at the storm fading into calm. We did it, he whispered to the creature. We changed everything. The creature's chest vibrated, a gentle rhythm now, steady and resolute. Elias pressed his hand to its armored flank one last time. They had survived, yes, but more than that, they had forged a bond that would endure, teaching a planet and a people that compassion, courage, and understanding could reshape the galaxy itself. Lightning flickered one last time across the horizon, casting gold across the valley. Elias and the creature stood together, unbroken, victorious not by force alone, but by the unity of heart, mind, and purpose. And in that moment, the world of Vorinth seemed to sigh, a planet at peace for the first time in centuries, ready to embrace the future they had claimed.